I just wanted to welcome everyone. We're here today to celebrate Sarosh, who was a very important person in Baba's group of men, early men Mandali, and we're very fortunate to have some information today from Karen. I'm going to show us a short video, just of some clips of Sarosh with Baba, and of course, Mayor Baba. Also, there are some, at the end, I was saying to Karen, there are some included of Villoo in Villoo's villa. Villoo's villa was the home that Villoo and Sarosh had, and they would let people come and stay for a couple of days to a week, or if the Pilgrim Center was closed, they would accommodate people then. So I was fortunate in that I went there for just a couple of days during my 5-week stay in 85. And Amrit was there, and Dara, and Jay, and his wife Shireen, and their children, Meher, and one of the other sons. So anyway, I included the pictures just because it's a picture of Villoo's villa, and the tables and the couches, the divans, and the beautiful decoration that she provided for us pilgrims. So Jai Baba, here we go.
That hearts could be filled, and with your name the world be stilled. And what could I ever have done to find out that for my sake at last you'd come? The word was sent out, for love sound is everywhere, for the Lord may Where could my wanderings have led? With choices so few, oh, the time had come to turn to you. And how could my scheming have shown that all lies within your love alone? The word was sent out, for love the sound is everywhere, for the Lord may No, there is a secret we share. You whisper to me your lovely name in melody, and with it I garland each day. It's Meher, for whom the veils must fall away. The word was sent out, for love the sound is everywhere, for the Lord
Jay Baba, and welcome everyone. Thank you. We're glad you're all here today, and we're happy to celebrate the life of Sarosh, Irani, Baba's Sarosh. We have Karen with us today, who has, of course, a wonderful bio that we're all anxious to hear and looking forward to. And I would just say that once we get started, if you have something to share, raise your hand digitally. I'll put it in the chat how you do that. You hit Alt Y on a PC, Option Y on a Mac, *9 on a phone, and there's a reaction button at the bottom. And we'd love to hear from everyone. But first, we'll listen to Karen's bio and kind of just get ourselves ready to talk about Sarosh some more. Sorry, I always mute myself immediately. Jay Baba.
Jay Baba, everyone. Ruthie, that was absolutely lovely. And the visuals and the music went together so well. I'm going to talk about Sarosh and Villoo. Okay, I'm in a different room, but now it doesn't work. It's too grainy. Maybe I'll go back to the other. I'm going to go back. Before I start, I'm going to go back to my non-Baba picture room, which I don't like, but it's like the one room that works in this house.
That's all right.
I tried.
I see you have your coach back in the background explaining things.
All right, so
let's see how this
is
is.
Here too. I don't know what's going on.
Sometimes it has to do with the light.
When there was no light, it was too grainy, but now anyway, it's the same light. Okay. I'm sorry, but let's see if I can manipulate this. I can't.
Well, it just looks like you have a bright light over your head.
I have a halo.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get started. Is it as grainy as it looks to me? It's okay now. Great.
It's okay. Yeah.
Jay Baba. Okay, first I want to really say thank you to Meher Roshani, to Sarosh's two daughters, Gulnar Adenwala and Franny DeMello. A year ago, they gave a wonderful 2-hour talk on their father and mother. And it provided a lot of the information, as well as Lord Meher, and as always, Tony Joyce's Meher Travels. Sarosh K. Irani was born on April 22nd, 1903, in what at the time would have been British India. He died on January 9th, 1973, in Bombay. He is buried in the men's cemetery at Lower Mehrabad. He married Villoo in 1927. They had 3 children. 10 years later, she gave birth to their first child, which was a son, and also Merwan S. Irani, but he is Merwan Sarosh Irani, and then the 2 daughters, Gulnar and Franny. And then I'll talk a little bit about how Dara came into their home, who was their nephew. And one of their nieces actually was Franny Irani. There's a lot of interconnections here. So he grew up living in the trust compound, what we know as a trust compound, which at the time was Kushru quarters. And these families lived together. Adi's family, his family, Sarosh's family, Irani's family was there for a while as well. He was sent to a boys' school in Panchgani. And according to one of his daughters, he excelled in sports, but not so much in academics. And she said he would be promoted because they needed for him to be on the team. And when they gave him awards for his sportsmanship, they gave him books in English, which the daughter said were never opened or read. When he was 17 years old, he it was the year 1920, and he was returning from Panchgani to Ahmednagar after finishing his examinations. And he wrote this when he was in the United States, I believe, in 1971, and in his telling his life story. So this is how he met Baba for the very first time. On the way, I had to pass through Pune. There I received a letter to take to my aunt from Pune, and that aunt was Adi and Rustam's mother, Gulmai, Baba's spiritual mother. We were to go by Madras mail.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I know that
Which
and left in November of 1953, but that's okay. But I wanted to tell last week was my mother's second anniversary.
Prakash, can you just wait a little bit? Thanks.
We went in a Tanga which passed through the Ferguson College Road where Meher Baba was in a Japti. Asking me to stay in the Tanga, she went inside the Japti. From inside the Tanga, I noticed a group of people sitting there with a little fire burning. One of them was playing the dholak and singing a ghazal. Later on, Baba asked my aunt as to who was sitting in the Tanga. And of course, that was Sarosh. She said, "Don't worry, he's my nephew coming from Panchgani." Baba told her, "You call him in. I have got much work for him to be done by him later on." So I went to him and sat near him. He patted me on my head and then on the back and asked me what I was doing. He then asked, "What do you want to do for the future?" I said, "Of course, I have to pass matric and go to college and then do as what is destined." He asked me to give up education and everything to go with him. Being young in heart, young in spirit, and young in age, I immediately accepted it. And today I am his disciple. Baba patted him and said to Sarosh, "I would like to make you king." And now Sarosh says, "Today I am a king." This is how I contacted my beloved Baba. He instructed Sarosh to study in Pune. I believe he paid for his education, his boarding, his lodging, and Adi was there at the same time as well. Sarosh informed his parents, but left out the part about Meher Baba because at that time, the father and the grandfather were not as fervent. So, but they were very pleased. And then Baba got him a job in an automobile company. But then he was included in the group that walked from Ferguson Road to Bombay. And when they got to Bombay, Baba was very strict with them. I believe they stayed in one other place, and then they got to Manzil-e-Meen. Sarosh was there for the entire time in Manzil-e-Meen. When Manzil-e-Meen ended, Baba asked the men, "Do you want to stay with me? Do you want to go home? Do you want to get a job? Do you want to get married?" And so there was a woman that Sarosh was interested in. And Baba said, "You must ask her to marry you, but she will turn you down because of her parents." And Sarosh was like, "Well, I don't know if I want to be turned down." And he didn't know whether to ask her or not. But Adi K. Irani said to him, his cousin, "You must ask her so you know, so you will know for certain." And Sarosh asked her, and the woman did say no, as Baba had said. And then Sarosh went to the racetrack one day, and he was attracted to a very lovely 15-year-old girl. And that, in fact, was Villoo. And Baba said, yes, the two of them should get married. And in 1927, they were, in fact, married. Villoo was 16 years old. And during the first week of April, Sarosh, who had been at Manzil-e-Meen and was now in business in Ahmednagar, came to Meherabad to see Baba, bringing with him his young 16-year-old bride, Villoo. This was Villoo's first opportunity to meet the master. During this period, Sarosh and Villoo lived in Kushru quarters, and on occasion, Baba would call them to Meherabad. Sarosh was a firm disciple of the master and one of the Mandali, though he was very much and remained very involved in the world. 10 years later, they had their first child, a boy, Merwan, and then Gulnar. 4 years later, Franny. Franny was 2 months old, and Villoo's sister, her younger sister, was married to Baba's brother, Adi Jr. And she was giving birth at Villoo Villa, I believe, and then died in childbirth. And that was December 24th, 1944. It was very devastating for Villoo at the time. And Sarosh and Villoo both brought Dara into their homes. And when the daughter Franny discussed it, and Franny said she had a fairy tale childhood, she said she was 2 months and Dara was newborn, that they were raised basically as twins. So, and Franny also said Adi Jr. would come often and tell them stories about Baba. Moving on to, well, not even on, it's a little back, but 1943, Sarosh had a new car. He had lots, he owned the motorworks and he did have cars. And it was one of the daughters said he was very, very proud of his cars and would like to bring them to show to Baba. Well, one day Baba said to Sarosh, he wanted 2 calves. They had to be English calves, male or female. He wanted them, and he wanted them by that afternoon at 1 o'clock. Sarosh said, all right. He looked all over and he was told to go to Pune to the Karki military dairy farm. The farm man found 2 English male calves. He said, you can have them. Sarosh asked the price. The man said, nothing, take them away, we're overstocked, and usually give them to good people who can look after them. The problem was solved, but how to get these calves back to Ahmednagar? Well, Sarosh put 1 calf on the back seat of his new car and the other in the legroom of the rear seat. They were both very cramped, and Sarosh was worried. He had to drag them out, and he had to massage them because they had been so cramped together. But when Baba saw them, he was very happy and embraced Sarosh. They grew up to be very fine bulls, and Baba used them for a considerable time. The car, an absolute mess. This led to another incident at that time. When the calves were brought, Elizabeth Patterson was there, and she said, Baba, why can't we also have some pigs? So Sarosh was sent off to find the pigs. 2 pigs were bought. They needed to be big white pigs. And again, the same problem. He had to put them in this nice car. And when he brought them back, the car was a mess. And Sarosh said the pigs multiplied so rapidly that everywhere you looked in Upper Mehrabad Hill, you saw a pig and you heard them from morning to night. These stories were in Ivy Juice's book, Power Master Works, in the supplement. In 1952, Sarosh came to the US with Baba and the women and the men Mandali to go to stay, the very first stay at Meher Spiritual Center. Sarosh was the person who was driving the second car when the accident happened in Prague, Oklahoma. Okay. Sarosh was elected mayor that year in 1952 of Ahmednagar. He also, this wasn't the first time that he continued on other occasions to be the mayor. Sarosh also was not officially in the military, but he had many dealings with the British troops. He supplied them with many items. He provided what were called mobile cinemas to them. So they gave him the title Khan Sahib. They attached him to a regiment and he would receive promotions. By the time he passed away, he was actually a colonel. He and Villoo would attend very big dinners. He would wear his outfit with his medals. So I think those were really in the world activities for Sarosh and for Villoo. In 1954, Sarosh was, when there was the the Three Incredible Weeks at Mehrabad, one of the pictures shows him with the Eastern and Western men. And there'd be other darshans. There was one in Ahmednagar, and Villoo was great. She would bring her cooks, pots and pans and food, and would provide food on the spot for all the people that attended. So while she hadn't yet come 100% to Baba, she continued to work just as Sarosh did for him. The second accident in 1956, Sarosh was also there when they stopped to play cricket, and Baba made him the captain of one of the teams. And here's another animal story, and this is the story of the horse Sheba. Baba was in Dehradun in 1953, and one of the Baba lovers, Amrit's father, Kumar, presented him with a very fine horse. And it was a racehorse, a brown mare. The mare loved Baba, Meramani, and the horse loved to eat and drink, but had very little exercise. When Baba went to Satara, the mare was taken, and he was there for 2 or 3 years. Then he came back to Ahmednagar and said to Sarosh, "Now I've finished work with this horse, please take her away." And Baba said, "Keep her or give her to any good home." Being in the army, Sarosh spoke to the commandant and said, "Sir, I'm going to present you with a very nice horse." They had a riding club there, so he gave her to the riding club, and they trained her. One day, Mera and Mani wanted to see the mare, so they went there and had a picnic. They brought all the things that they knew Sheba would like to have. The commandant said, "Sarosh, we're going to race Sheba at the races." She was a racehorse. And they went to ask Baba's permission. Baba asked Mera's permission. And she ended up winning the race. Sarosh had bet 300 rupees and won them. And he offered to give the prize money to Baba, but Baba said, "No, you keep it." So that's the story of Sheba. They would have fairs, melas, in Hamirpur for Baba, pretty much. Like, I think the first was maybe 61. And then in 1963, November 25th to 27th, there was to be another Naranga Mela. This time, Baba instructed Sarosh and Villoo about their upcoming visit. Baba warned Villoo not to pay attention to the poverty, uncleanliness, illiteracy, and manners of the poor villagers of Hamirpur, but to see only the richness of their love for Baba. He embraced them and stated, "This embrace of mine will reach thousands through you." Little did Sarosh and Villoo realize the depth of his words. Now, Sarosh was 100% for Baba. Villoo was close, but not quite there. And so they left for Naranga early the following morning by car, as the Mela was about to commence on the 25th. On the way, Villoo was thinking apprehensively about what their accommodations would be like in Naranga. But when they arrived, they were afforded a grand reception and showered with cordial hospitality. The unique atmosphere of love for Baba was so exhilarating that both Villoo and Sarosh were overcome by it. They totally forgot themselves. On the last day of their stay, every one of the villagers wanted to embrace them. 2 long lines formed. Sarosh began embracing the men. Villoo embraced the women. Once, the very thought of embracing thousands of none too clean farmers and villagers would have been repugnant to them. But now both were weeping. They continued to weep for 4 hours. Baba's words to Villoo, that his embrace would be carried to thousands rang in her ears. They had never in their lives witnessed such love, and both were profoundly affected and deeply moved. As soon as they returned to Ahmednagar, they went to Mirzad to report to Baba. They declared they had never witnessed such devotion and enthusiasm at a mass gathering for Baba. And at that time, at that trip in Hamirpur, that's when Villoo 100% came to Meher Baba. In 1968, they were very closely involved with setting up Dara and Amrit's wedding. And one of the more humorous stories that Mani would like to tell was about providing the drinks for the guests. And Sarosh he would always want the best. So whatever the money was not significant. He wanted Coca-Cola for all the guests. And Villoo said, no, that's too much. We have to have raspberry. And this went on. And in front of Baba and the women, they were fighting back and forth between Coca-Cola and a raspberry drink. So Baba said, okay, 1/2 Coca-Cola, 1/2 raspberry. And Villoo said, no, because everyone is going to only want to drink the Coca-Cola. But then Baba said, no. First they'll drink the Coca-Cola. And not said, but he gestured. First they'll drink the Coca-Cola, and then they will go for the raspberry. So that's how it happened. On January 31st, 1969, Sarosh and Villoo were in Bombay at Nargis's house when they heard the news that Baba had dropped his body. Immediately, Sarosh drove back. He learned that they were planning to interre the body the following day. He was the one, he said, wait, many others will want to come. He was one of those that said that. In 1969, he and Villoo were at the Great Darshan. The people were coming. In 1971, Kitty and Elizabeth invited Sarosh to visit the US. They had their son at that time was living in San Diego, so that wasn't a great reason to come. He was in London, New York, Atlanta, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and Detroit, and spoke at these places about Baba. In the early 70s, Sarosh suffered a heart attack. In those days, there were only medicines to take. There was no surgery, and recommended to take it easy. In 1972, their daughter Franny was getting married, and Sarosh again wanted to be involved in making all the arrangements. The wedding was December 31st of 1972. Shortly thereafter, and he felt at that time, he said that he was pleased that he had cared for all the arrangements for his children. They were married at this time. On January 8th, I believe it would have been, in 1973, he, Villoo, and the son, who was going back to the US, went to Bombay. And one of the other reasons that Sarosh had to go to Bombay that day was because they had asked him to go to the government offices to get an ability to have more people than they had had in the past for Amartithi. They had to increase the numbers. And he was going from office to office that day. He was having angina pains. At the end of the day, he was successful. Came back that night. He went to bed and he passed away. But he had woken up, and on his lips was Baba's name. Villoo, throughout, for part of their married life, was concerned because Sarosh had been so generous and spent money on others, even if it meant going into debt himself. When Sarosh was alive, Villoo's solution was to ask Baba to talk to Sarosh. Baba said, let him do what he wants. You cannot change him. This is his nature. Villoo said, how do I manage with my children? Baba said, or gestured, don't worry. I am there. I will look after you. When Sarosh died, he had left a huge amount of debt. Villoo again was at wit's end. She really didn't know what to do. Adi Sr. said to Villoo, and they had had people staying there. When people couldn't stay at Merazad when Baba was alive, Baba said, go stay with Sarosh and Villoo. So Adi said, now these young people are coming, open your home up and let Baba's lovers stay there, which she did. And she was very astute with business. She was a good businesswoman. She got back every penny and had enough money for her own security. And this basically went on until the Pilgrim Center opened. When she needed money, a Baba lover would appear and come and stay with her. I know Chris Barker told the story that in 1983, the Pilgrim Center was closed. It was a drought and there just wasn't enough water to keep it going. So people then stayed with Villoo. So basically, that's what I have to share, but there's a few more. And I just want to share a few things that others said about Sarosh and Villoo, and also what Baba said. So when the program was last year that Amrit and Dara were called, and Dara told two stories that were kind of humorous. One was that when he asked Sarosh if he knew, or if others asked Sarosh if he knew who the 5 perfect masters were, Sarosh said, I don't know who the other 4 are, but I know I'm the 5th. And then Baba had asked him for 10,000 rupees, and Sarosh said, I don't know that I can cover it, but you're God, so here it is. I paraphrased them. One time, Sarosh and Villoo were caught in a flash flood. Sarosh started yelling and taking Baba's name, and then the waters receded. Baba said, I will let the waters come up to your nose, but I will not let them rise above your nose. Baba said to Sarosh, if I ordered you to cut off Villoo's head, would you do it? Sarosh said yes. But Villoo then said she would not allow that. Baba told Sarosh to buy Seclusion Hill, which he did. Sarosh was also asked to keep Baba's The book. Then Baba asked to have it returned, and no one has heard of it since that time. Both Sarosh and Villoo were in the world and worked tirelessly to please Meher Baba. The first time Sarosh met Meher Baba at the hut on Ferguson Road in Pune. Baba said to Gomai, you call him in. I have much work to be done by him later on. Baba said, I would like to make you king when he met Sarosh for the first time. And Sarosh later wrote, today I am a king. This is how I contacted first my beloved Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Karen, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, we're so grateful. You filled in so many blanks about Sarosh's life. And I know that when I first heard of Meher Baba, the Men Mandali, Sarosh was always kind of the first one mentioned. Sarosh, Adi, Erich. So Sarosh, I think, was the king in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I love the idea that he lived in the world but was not of it, that he knew how to navigate in the world and still be 100% with Meher Baba. So thank you. That was just beautiful. I'd like to open it up to anybody who wants to share a little bit about Sarosh. I'm surprised I didn't meet him. He came to Washington in 71, and I don't know why I didn't go, because I was making it an important part of my life to get to the Men Mandali that were coming. So I'm not sure what happened in 71 that I didn't get to go. But as I've already shared, I stayed at Villoo's villa for a few days just to have that atmosphere of his home. Um, and Villoo was so gracious, and meeting Dara and Amrit and Jay and Shireen, and such wonderful people that were so close to Baba. And it was kind of the luxurious place to go. We had been at the Pilgrim Center and it was wonderful, don't get me wrong. But someone encouraged me. I don't know if it was Tex Hightower. Somebody encouraged me to go stay at Vilu's for a couple of days because they serve meat there. You can get chicken. Go stay there. And I was in India for 5 weeks, so I thought, yeah, it's probably a good idea. So I went over to Vilu's, and it was really wonderful to spend time. I had a lot of time with Dara, which was really wonderful. So that's as close as I actually got to Sarosh. And I don't know if anybody else here, Ralph or Alan, Rosalie, Betty, has anyone else had that opportunity or had an opportunity to hear Sarosh speak? Or Alan is waving at me, so I think that's a good opportunity to unmute you, Alan. Hey, Baba.
Hey, Baba. I thought it was in 1972, but I guess it's in 71. I was at the center both times. How do I get Ralph Jackson on my screen? Not me. Anyway, so Sarosh spoke in the library, you know, where people talk with I don't know if we had the meeting place, the little reading room area yet, but I remember him in the library, and he had a real gravelly, deep voice. Hi, I'm Sarosh kind of voice. I can't do it with him. And I thought he was quite powerful and quite masculine. I wanted to mention a story. I told my friend Jack Mormon, we had lunch the other day, and he was there in 72-3 with his first wife, Becky, and they went to the wedding of Sarosh and Villoo's daughter. His name is Franny, I think. And he didn't say it was personal because there was only about 20 Westerners there, so all the Westerners went. And so a few days later, he was out at Mehrabad. In those days, you could go to Mehrabad for a few days, and Padre would lambast you for not eating all your food. So he woke up one morning and he was just wandering around Lower Mehrabad. It's very quiet in those days. I mean, unimaginably, for those who remember it. And Padre walked up and said, "Mister," you know, that's how he talked, "Mister, have you heard the news?" And Jack hadn't heard anything, he just got up. He said, "No." He said, "What's the news?" He said, "The first wicket has fallen." So that was when Sarosh had died, January 8th. Jack said he had gone to Bombay, to do this work for the trust. And when he was finished, he knew his work for Baba had been done, kind of as this Karen described it. So I didn't stay at Vilu's when Sarosh was alive, obviously. If he came to San Francisco, I'm kind of wondering where the gaps in my brain are, because I'm sure I would have seen him. I'm gonna have to find somebody who, yes, Dara is the son, no, it's the son of Adi Jr. and Villoo, who was Vilu's sister. We were at the Memorial Tower ceremony 2 years ago, and it was very touching. Amrit was reading a portion of something she didn't know, and Baba said when Villoo died in childbirth with Dara, that she came to him, and it was very moving. We were all very touched by that. I didn't know that, so I don't know what that means, but it doesn't sound bad. But Dara was raised by Villoo and Sarosh, and until later when he went to England. He had remarried to Franny, who I think is related. It's impossible to figure all these relationships out. just died about a year and a half ago. She was the mother of Shireen Bonner, who lives in New Mexico. She's married to Jay Bonner, a very old friend of mine. And of course, Shireen is as well. And they're wonderful. And we knew Franny. They stayed at our house. Shireen and I've known Jay for nearly 50 years. I stayed at Villoo's because she needed the money. Two summers, the summer of 77 and the summer of 78. So I'm a little blurred out on who was there or what, but there were a lot of teachers there both times because it's the summer. In 77, I stayed there because I had nowhere else to stay. I had sold my business, was about to go to law school. So I figured I'd splurge and stay at Villoo's. Villoo was not there. It was being run by Dara and Amrit. I should say that we had, Amrit would start food fights every night at the meals. There was 3 meals a day. There was meat as described. We played games and we had a roaring good time. Dara would play his music. He was heavy in the rock and roll and had this fantastic musical setup they brought from London. A guy more into rock and roll, I can't imagine. I don't know if the Bee Gees were that year or the next year, but man, we listened to a lot of Staying Alive. I can't remember which year that was. But in 77, as I say, Villoo was not there, so all hell broke loose. There was not much discipline in the ranks, I should say. Played a lot of charades. For the most part, Lynn Ott was my roommate. We spent a good deal of time together. Some of the people were there both times. I know Annie Larson, Nell Hall, Barbara Katzenberg, Frank and I can't remember what's her name, Elaine McNutt. I know Jeff Craddock was there one season. Again, I'm mixing up 77 and 8, but in 78, Villoo was there. In 77, she was traveling to Australia and I think Africa to see her daughters. So I didn't see her at all, but in 78, she was there. And that was a whole different scene. She was a taskmaster. And she would always tell the Americans that they stunk and to take a bath. Karen's telling me not to say anything negative, but I'm just telling you what happened. This is the way it was. But she made us some more money by not only charging us for the rent to be there, of course, but naturally she played cards. Those who knew Villoo, she was a very good poker player. So she had a whole crew that she played with every night. I had played poker when I was a teenager. So I had pokered myself out, so I didn't play with her. Also, I knew that she would be better than I was. I could see that in her eyes. She was very clever, very bright woman, a lot of fun. The boys were there, Marwan and Jamshed. Marwan's now a mogul, Jamshed's in Australia. So it was a lot of fun being at Villoo's. We got limbu pani, which is lime water. That was always a hoot. We could take showers or baths, as the case may be. They had their own bathrooms. We had our own rooms, or we shared rooms. It was a big house. It was quite the spread. A lot of rickshawing from Villoo's to the Trust, and even out to Mehrabad. I'm trying to remember if we went. We probably took the bus. In those days, we had the bus to get to Mehrabad. Remember spending a lot of time in rickshaws with Lynn Ott. What to say about Sarosh and Villoo? They were all Baba's 100%. I want to add one backstory to the story about how Villoo came to Baba, and then I'll be done because Karen wants other people to talk. What happened was they were at Mehrabad or at the Trust, I can't remember, and Baba asked Prem Kilnani, Judge Kilnani, who lived in the Trust, whether he would like to go to this event up in Hamirpur. And he had 2 little kids. They had Raj and Vinod. And he said to Baba, why would I want to go thousands of miles away? I have you right here. I'm at your feet. Plus, for my wife, she has a long name. I can't remember it. She has to take care of the children. It would be very difficult. So Baba went, very practical, you know, the way Baba was. And standing in the back of the room were Villoo and Sarosh. And he looked out and he pointed, he says, will you go in Prem's place for me? And they agreed to. And that's the backstory of how they ended up in Hamyapur, and Villoo had that remarkable experience that brought her to Baba. So I thought I'd fill in a couple of blanks there. Anyway, thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful, Alan. Thank you. I'm going to ask Tina to share, and then there's a question or two in the chat that maybe Karen can repeat. I'm sorry to ask you to repeat, but some people came late, so perhaps we could revisit that. But right now we're going to go to Tina and then Ralph Jackson, and then maybe answer some of the questions from the late.
Yes, well, I stayed there in 77, and people mentioned Amrit's Boutique. Well, when I got there in 77, I had had all my luggage lost by British Airways, and so I arrived there with just the clothes on my back, which were winter clothes. And I just, you know, I came in and I was practically in tears. And Amrit came out and I said, you know, you can't believe my bad luck. British Airways has lost all my luggage. I just have the clothes on my back. And her whole face lit up and she said, oh, that's wonderful. You can buy all new clothes at my boutique. And she made me laugh. Later, I did get my my clothes back from British Airways, but I had to go back to Mumbai to get them. And then I do remember when I stayed there in I guess it was 92 with my son and my husband. And, you know, my son really liked the food there. And he was taking many helpings of things. And I was trying to, you know, make him eat less. And Villoo said to me, oh, shut up, Mummy. He can have as much as he wants. He's a growing boy. Shut up, Mommy. I still remember that. Anyway, those are some fond memories. I do remember Raju and Anita, their servants, and getting a tonga to go to the samadhi, and just a lot of, and they had a television. We used to watch television. So it was a really wonderful time staying there.
I'm so happy to hear you share all these things about Villoo's villa. I don't have particulars, but boy, it was something amazing and magical about being able to stay there at one of the Mondley's homes. I mean, what more could a person ask for? And then to have a boutique there. Oh my God. Anyway, Ralph, Jay Baba, good morning.
Hey, Baba, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you great. Thanks.
Okay, great. Jay Baba.
Jay Baba.
So trying to get my memories refreshed here a bit, but we in 1971, I had gotten out of the army in Germany and flew straight to India. And I thought, well, I'm close, and really a splendid opportunity to revisit Baba in India. So I wrote letters to everyone concerned, and I remember I took either Jal Dastur met me at the airport, or I took a taxi to their place and spent the night with Jal and Dolly. They slept on the floor. I don't know if they had a bed. And I slept on sort of a couch thing. And it had been raining a lot. It must have been monsoon. And Joel said, and Dolly said, Charles Haynes and John Leiter are at the train station, and the train can't leave because the tracks are flooded down track. But we'll go in the morning. I'll take you to the train, and their train may still be there. So it was. So I joined John and Charles Haynes on the train, and we were still there for quite a few hours, but stuck it out, and the train eventually rolled forward and took us to, and there my memory fails me, if we went to Pune or if we went straight to Ahmednagar. And we stayed at Sarosh and Villoo's. And I tell you, I think it seemed like most of our little trips, it seemed like Sarosh was taxiing us on most of the, everywhere we went. He sort of took us under his wing and told us Baba stories. Some of, I'm sure I don't remember most of them, but one I remember was Baba having Sarosh get 2 calves. And I guess might have been for the new life. And Sarosh getting the calves and having to transport them in the back seat of the car. And he thought that, and that was interesting. He said, so we went with Sarosh, we went to Mehrabad. Sarosh was there, and he introduced us to Muhammad Must. And we took pictures, and somehow I can't find the picture. We took pictures with Muhammad, and Sarosh stood behind whoever was doing the camera. We took turns doing the camera, and would tell jokes. And then when I got my picture taken, he and Charles told a funny joke and made me laugh. I don't know if you can see this. I'm trying to manipulate the cameras a little bit. This is me with Sarosh, and my eyes are closed, and I'm chuckling. I'm just laughing.
With Mohammed.
Like
The one with Mohammed.
Yeah. And here's Charles and Mohammed. If I can get it. Wow. Yeah, it's a vertical picture, but let's see if I can get in there.
Yeah, pretty good.
It's like backing a trailer up. You gotta do everything counter to the direction you think it need to go. That's Charles and Muhammad. And Sarosh was there on that occasion.
Where's
and
the
Muhammad said, huh?
Can
Sorry,
we see the photo of you and Sarosh?
I don't have one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nobody ever, it never occurred. I don't know how I may have pictures of Sarosh, but oddly, I don't recall having any, and I don't recall seeing any in the collection of hundreds of pictures I took in India in those years.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know. That then Sarosh passed away, but we were returned to Villoo a number of times. And I remember being in India when Sarosh came to America, which Ala told about, came to Washington. He may have stayed with Andy and Peggy Muir, it seemed. I'm not sure if that's right or not. And Eric's was telling us about Sarosh. They were talking how now he should conduct himself and what he would say in his talks to people. And they asked him about the perfect masters, and he was boasting that he would tell everyone that he was one of the perfect masters. Yeah. Staying at Villoo Villa, what I mean, those Alan has and Tina both accounted well for that experience. So the years Alan's talking about, the rock and roll years with Villa gone, I did not experience that. Things were pretty, military, left, right, left. In the times that I was there, you pretty well. It was, but I mean, it wasn't a inconvenience or anything. And I remember Villoo talking about the Westerners, particularly Clive Adams. When Clive Adams had come and how dirty he was, and his hair was long, and she had to clean him up. Yeah. And then, of course, a lot of people came, but so many of them there were a lot who came and went from Villoo's. I don't know. And we usually took rickshaws, to either Narazad or Mehrabad for day trips. And so Sarosh was gone. I did have the occasion. I remember him, I remember him physically, I remember his voice. He had a big voice, he had a big heart. And I've learned more about him in subsequent years, after he's been gone than I knew when I had the good fortune to be around him and be in his presence. So Villoo was, as you say, gregarious, and the being in debt. She used to share that with everyone, and she said she didn't pull any bones. She said Sarosh was a horrible businessman. She said he was not a businessman. So she kind of attributed his, I don't know, that's all she said about that. But right, nor did I know she was able to pull out of debt by means of revenue from the pilgrims. And I would have not thought it would have been enough, because like you say, she invested a lot in food and caring for everyone. She was really tried to see to it that everybody stayed fit and got off to Mehrabad and Narazad in good shape. And keep everybody cheerful and gregarious at the dinner, huge dining table. And she would stand there, and as Raju would serve the food, according to what you wanted, he would make rounds of the table and everybody gets served individually. And Villoo would raise her hand and say, "Eat, eat, eat." And I thought that was pretty cool. I had a huge picture of Baba on the wall at that probably, I'm going to guess, but I think it would have been the south end of the south wall of that room. And at the one end of the big table. It's a wonderful house. I liked it. Yeah. And then one year I went, and every time I went, I enjoyed working in the clinic with Dr. Goher, because I was a medic in the Army. So I thought I wanted to pursue a career somehow in medicine, which didn't pan out. But I loved working in the clinic, and with Hindu receiving the patients, like the villagers would line up, in queue, and if they had a record, he had the records that their medical history, and he'd give them a number or so, I can't remember exactly how the system worked. And Villoo would stand at the door and receive the patients and talk to them. And that was wonderful experience. And we did that, did that a lot. And then I would bicycle to and fro from Villoo Villa to Marizada pretty much daily for clinic work. And Villoo was very helpful. At one point, I too felt that I wasn't getting adequate nutrition, that the meat and everything, you know, I thought, God, I just felt like I needed something. Probably needed to be taking vitamins or something. But then at times, yogurt, or I think they called it, what was yogurt called in India? Anyone, Maritime?
Called curd.
Curds.
It's called dahi.
Dye, yes, dye was served. And I felt like I was getting a big kick, you know, of energy from the dye. So I started asking if I could have more dye. And then I started fudging and going to the kitchen and asking the cook to make, I said, I want to make, I think her name was Sony, to make lots more dye for her. And that helped me keep that bicycle moving. All right, Jai Baba, I think that's about all I can think of at the moment. Thank you, Jai Baba.
Jay Papa, Ralph, that was great memories. Thank you so much. That took us to the villa. Yeah, I asked Alan, oh, now I'm just dropping his name. I asked Alan Wagner to make me more peanut butter because I'm diabetic. And when I got there, I wasn't getting enough protein and my sugar would drop. So yeah, I got special treatment. I got peanut butter and some other nice stuff. But anyway, yeah, go to the cook. Jay Baba. Our Betty Lohman. Jay Baba.
Hey, Baba. We first went to India in '87, long after Sarosh had passed. And our family briefly stayed at Villoo Villa.
Yes.
It was oh my goodness, such a treat. It seemed so, I guess it was part of the military cantonment, I think, isn't that right? And you had the sense of the best of the old Raj time. It was elegant. I remember, you know, kind of like leather furniture and dark wood, and
Yes.
that's my memory. It
Yes.
was
Nice.
just a treat. And Villoo had gone somewhere. What I remember is Raju, that dear old man. He was kind of in charge because she wasn't there, and our little Shireen, our 7-year-old daughter, who already the Mandala had said, you know, treat her, she was kind of thin. They were concerned about her health, and, you know, give her cream is what Mary said. And, oh, he doted on her. And by 7 years, she was an adamant vegetarian. So, but his chicken was so out of this world that and he just would tempt her, and oh, he was so sweet with her. That's what I remember, is that dear man Raju, the baby. He called her the baby. He wanted to take care of the baby. So that's my memory. Jai Baba.
Jay Baba, yeah. And to me too, it was just magical. You would come around a little corner and then there'd be steps going down and it just seemed like some magical place. You're right. It had that old world elegance that we just didn't get to see. We were not inside that place. So what a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah.
And Betty, just expressing the love that your family received, your daughter received while you were there. That's beautiful. Give her cream. Fred, Jay Baba, Fred Stankus. Jay Baba.
Jay Baba. Hello, everybody. I recall my first trip, second trip to India, 1972. And I was traveling on the airline pass. I was working in the airline business. And so it was a TWA flight to Bombay. I arrived on Bombay and I was informed by the customs official, TWA is going out on strike at midnight tonight. You're traveling on a pass. You better check and see if you'll be able to leave India. If they are on strike, you won't be able to leave India. So I proceeded by a private car from Bombay all the way to Nagar. I got there. It was early morning arrival at the airport in Bombay. So I arrived like midday at Nagar. And I related to Adi Irani my precarious situation. And he called Sarosh out. And Sarosh was informed of what could happen. So Sarosh says, I'm going to call the airlines. I'm in connection with Air India and so forth to see if this strike is really going to happen. And so he said, go up to the Samadhi at Mehrabad. And so I took a rickshaw to Mehrabad. I went to the Samadhi. I came back to the trust office. He said, now go to Mehrabad and pay your respects. He says, when you come back, you may have to catch a private car to take you back to Bombay airport, because otherwise you may be stranded in India. Who knows? The strike may last 2 months, 3 months. So I went to Mehrabad. I went to greet the Mandalay. I went to Baba's bedroom and so forth. I came back. It was about, 6 p.m. at night. He said, okay, I'm sorry to tell you, we have a private car waiting for you to take you back, to drive you back to Mumbai. So I said goodbye to everybody. I drove back to the airport, and sure enough, the deadline was going to be that would be the last flight out with the TWA until the strike would be over, which it did not finish for months. And so I boarded the plane, arrived, and this plane took me to Taipei and then to Honolulu. You'd clear customs in Honolulu. And so when I arrived in Honolulu, the customs officials were disbelieving. How could somebody travel to India and spend a matter of hours at one place and then come back? And so they considered me a contraband smuggler for some reason and took me to a private room and basically made me undress and checked me for any kind of drugs like cocaine or heroin or whatever. And of course I was clean. And then they saw this card, they saw this card, Jal Esarani, my good friend Jal, Baba's brother. And they said, who's he? Is that your contact in India? I said, no, he's Mir Baba's brother. So anyway, I finally got back to the States, but it was quite humiliating for me to be going through this. And it's probably the shortest turnaround stay in India ever. But Sarosh was key in basically coming out to meet me at the trust compound in Crucial Quarters to arrange all these types of transportation to get me back to the airport. So that's my experience with Sarosh. Jai Baba.
Jay Baba. Yeah, thanks for the story. Sarosh just seemed to have influence. He may not have been the best businessman, but he had a lot of contacts, it seemed. And we benefited from that. That was beautiful. Thank you. Now, who was the one that I guess at Manzalimim that Baba kept putting their bags out on the porch that arrived back and their bags would be on the porch? Do you know, Ralph or Alan? Anybody? Fred? Who was the one that kept coming back trying to get into where they were staying, and Baba they were a bit late or something had happened and they ended up with their bags on the porch? Does anybody remember? Yeah, Karen knows, of course. Yes, Miss Karen.
All right, so maybe I was a little unclear, But one of the daughters in the talk that they gave last year said that when the Manzalimim began, Baba was very strict with the men that were there because he was in the process of training them. And she said that if they disobeyed any of Baba's orders, she didn't mention one person, although she did mention Sarosh in one instance. They would come back and they would find their items on the doorstep, and they would have to apologize to Baba. And then he would forgive them and they would come back in. And she said it was very difficult. And I know Adi, I believe, had this as well, that they would go, when they would leave Manzilimim, they were not to acknowledge or talk to any friends or relatives, which was extremely difficult to do. So I think the daughter intimated, and Betty might know that because Betty was at that program, but the daughter intimated that Sarosh disobeyed maybe on more than one occasion and found his belongings on the doorstep and had to explain to Baba and all that. And then they would always be let back in. And essentially, I mean, Baba really cared for him. After Manzilimim, he helped him get established. He gave him 500 rupees, some amount of rupees to get him started in his business. So, wow, I mean, it was really quite a life, quite an amazing life. And again, this was the one person that I did a bio for. I never met him. I never met Sarosh. Of course, I met Villoo. And it might have stayed there 1 or 2 nights, but then would be invited. They'd have parties there, and she was there, and we'd be invited. They'd invite people for dinners every once in a while. So, and I always remember the tiffins. The people, you knew who the people were that were staying at Villoo's when we would be at Marizad, and it would be lunchtime, because they had these white bread cucumber sandwiches with the crust cut off. Anyway, that's it. Jai Baba.
Jay Baba, thank you. Yeah, I knew there was that thing that always, I don't know why that always touched me. How people would come back and there'd be their things out on the porch. Oh my God, he's thrown me out, Imagine the feeling. Yeah, but Baba, in his wonderful infinite compassion, would take them back and allow them in. And I knew there was one that was doing it a little more than the others. And I don't know why I thought that was Sarosh, but yeah, it would be hard to see people you knew or family and have to walk past them because. Anyway, Ralph, what do you got?
I was late getting in by about 20 minutes for the program, but did you have a film or something?
Yes, we did. We had a video. We'll show it at the end if you like.
It occurred to me, was it mentioned that Baba picked Villoo for Sarosh?
No.
He agreed.
So Sarosh was, for somehow in the early days, though Sarosh was with Baba, somehow Turi was in Persia, in Iran, I think, somehow, and was a ladies' man, and Baba knew that, and so there were a number of stories when Sarosh would, what would you call it, Sarosh and Baba, and how Baba started mistreating Sarosh. And Sarosh his heart was feeling hurt. And then Baba said, well, how do you think I feel? You stay off in Persia, this, that, and the other. And then Sarosh was trying to find a proper wife, and he got his heart broken a number of times. And then Baba was asking him about, it was being discussed with Baba, and Baba said, Baba picked you somehow was connected to know about Villoo and her family and chose her and arranged it all. I don't remember more detail than that. Also, I had one other thought. I don't know if I should tell this, but in my stays at Villoo Villa, one evening, Dara and Amrit had arranged like a big outdoor tent. I think they were accommodating too many people for everybody to get around the table and inside the house. So they had set up a tent, you know, just outside the dining room in the open, and with tables out there, and that was nice. And everybody was enjoying eating outdoors under the tent. And one night, Amrit grabbed me by the hand and took me over to Marwan and Jamshed's bedroom, which was one of the outbuildings apart from the main bungalow. And she says, these boys need stories read to them. You see to it they go to bed and get to sleep, read stories, do it every afternoon. And so I went in there, and they were just couple of wild Indians. They were wild boys. They were in just so much energy, and they were just bouncing off the walls like anything. And so, but they had stories, and they loved one. Rather than it being, they had a children's story. Rather than it being Jack and the Beanstalk, it was Jim and the Beanstalk. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is terrible. They've changed Jack's name to Jim. But they were fond of it, and they knew Jim Meyer. And they said, you know Jim Meyer? And they said, we like Jim and the Beanstalk. So we read that story about 10 jillion times. And there were some of the Arabian stories, Alibaba. And then we'd read those Alibaba stories. And Marwan Jamshed would make their own stories up from story, they would spin off and make up their own stories. And that was cool. And we'd stay there, and they would wear me out to the point that, I mean, I would be beyond exhaustion, and everybody would fall asleep, Pall Mall, any old. And I recall one time, Shatrugna was there, Dara's father, and he had had a heart attack, and he was just trying to relax and recuperate. And he was staying in the boys' room, and they didn't tone it down a bit. It was just as usual. And Shatrugna was just so poised and natural, like, you know, like this is the weather. This is how it is. It didn't bug him a bit. And we went on with the stories and everything. Another time, Don Sprinkle came from New York. I didn't know Don Sprinkle, but since I've heard stories, I know, and we knew he had met Baba. That got around to my ears. And then I heard, I think he came in '62 for the East West gathering. So Don Sprinkle was so clean cut, and I don't know, he seemed like really very straight arrow and disciplined. And he he'd gone to dinner, and I was already in the room reading stories. And he and Don, they put Don in the room with the boys, with Marwan and Jamshed, and he had a suitcase. Well, Don left the room to go to dinner, and we started, I don't know, those kids played games. Nothing just went along in a straight line ever. And they jumped into Don's suitcase. They opened it up and started rifling through all his belongings and playing with them. And I said, finally, I got them to put everything back and close the suitcase. And then I fell asleep in the room that night with them. And lo and behold, when Don came back, everybody was asleep. Well, I woke up in the wee hours, and Don was getting up for an early trip to Maribon. And he opened his suitcase, and he didn't seem, I mean, it was dark, but I could see him. He had a little flashlight that he was working by, and he was in his suitcase, kneeling down. And he dressed up like he was going for a walk on the moon. He had he was totally covered, had a dust mask and everything, looked like a Martian. And I thought, well, he's from New York. He's accustomed to a lot of pollution. This is probably what they do to stay. He does this to keep his health. I think he had a job of some import. And then off he went. And I never let on like I was awake. I just laid there and watched Don dress and get ready. And I think Marilyn and Jamshed were also awake. One of them was in the bed with me, and they were also spying on Don as he got ready to go. And he departed early. I think he had arranged for a rickshaw to take him to Maribon. I just wanted to share that, but that were fond memories. Jai Baba. Thank you, Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Ralph. Yeah, wild Indians. Wonderful energy. Thanks, Ralph. Well, I'm just looking to see, is there anyone else that would like to ask anything particular about the life of Sarosh? Since we have Karen here, she's got lots of information from his bio. I know some people didn't get to hear it exactly on time, so if there's anything you'd like to ask, please raise your hand.
I got it. I'm listening to this.
Okay. Again, if anybody has anything to say, raise your hand and I'll be happy. I've been asked to show the video again, so I'll do that just to get an idea of some photographs of Sarosh and Villoo and the family. Okay. Jai Baba. Thank you, everyone.
Ralph, that was a delightful story. Thank you. What a
Betty, that's probably right in stride for your life, I think. I believe you would have been a fit person for that work. You would have been prepared, perhaps. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Betty. Jai Baba.
Oh, how could I ever have known that hearts could be filled, and with your name the world be stilled, and what could I ever have done to find out that for my sake at last you'd come? The word was sent out, for love's sound is everywhere. For the Lord may have could my wanderings have led? With choices so few, oh, the time had come to turn to you, and how could my scheming have shown that all lies within your love alone? The word was sent out for love. The sound is everywhere, for the Lord may no, there is a secret we share. You whisper to me your lovely name in melody, and with it I garland each day. It's Meher, for whom the veils must fall away. The word was sent out for love. The sound is everywhere, for the Lord may have Avatar, who may
That was very beautiful.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you. Jai Baba.
Jay Baba, such wonderful subject matter. I'm so grateful to Baba.
There was one photo really old with men in turbans. It was all men. Did anyone recognize anything?
I believe that was, well, I
One?
thought it was in front of the automobile works that Sarosh had. And I thought
Oh,
that Sarosh was there. I also wondered if it was his father there.
I see.
I can probably check the source for that real quick, because it's in Meher Baba Travels that I found the photo. So I can look real quick for you.
This was such a great portrait of. I'm so grateful to wonderful information and photos too. Wow, I never met him. It's just you. Yeah,
Was Sarosh mayor of Nagar?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I'm sure I'm wrong on this, and I mentioned before, and I think that it was said. Let me just should screen share this. Where am I? It's in here. Yeah. Let me screen share this, but here's a picture of Villoo. I didn't include, I'm sorry, I missed that. And then of course Sarosh when he came back for Baba's interment. Let's see, where is that photo in front of the works? I must have passed it. There it is. So there you go. Adi K. Irani, father. I can almost read. Khan Sahib, can you read it? And then there's Sarosh Irani. So Adi.
Which one is Sarosh, Ruthie?
Yeah,
Where's
I'm trying to see. Standing left with his hand across his chest is Sarosh. So here's Sarosh.
No, that's not, no, that's Adi's father.
Okay, so it says Adi K. Irani's father. Then it says maybe it's not put in correctly. Khan Sahib Kaikushu Sarosh Irani standing left with his hands across his abdomen.
Maybe that's his whole name. Maybe
And
Sarosh.
That is, oh,
Then it says his brother-in-law. Then it says Sarosh's father. And then so Sarosh's father is in this photo, and I'm trying to figure it out.
maybe the guy sitting down is Sarosh's father because they have similar hats and the mustache. I don't know. Just
Yeah.
I don't know because I don't even know what Sarosh looks like.
Yeah. Well, Adi's father, and then Khan Sahib Karusha
Kushru.
Thank you for the help. I'm just obviously I'm murdering. And then standing left with his hands across his abdomen, his brother-in-law.
Sarosh's father. So it's not, Sarosh is not in this picture.
Sarosh's father.
Right.
That's right. No, these are the fathers. Adi's father, the grandfather, Sarosh's father.
Yeah. Is this Sarosh's father?
That's Adi's father.
Yeah, because Adi was a big man. That makes sense.
I think it's Adi's father. I think you're right.
Yeah, that's Adi's father.
Kaikushru.
And who's the guy that, see his arm is almost resting on somebody?
Yeah, this fellow with his, that's who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, you said that's Adi's father. I'm talking about who's the guy we're right below him.
His name is not provided. Only
right.
only two names are provided.
I
Then
see.
The whole top line, I think I have it figured out, is descriptive of the man with his hand on his abdomen.
Yeah.
And the beanie hat, like as worn like by Laurel and Hardy had beanie cap.
Nice hats. Yeah.
Okay, so this is Sarosh's father.
Yeah, which one?
Standing under the signboard on the right.
Oh.
So that I'm pretty sure that's Sarosh's father. This is Adi's father.
Very good.
Oh.
The brother.
And their names were Kaikushru. But
They
this
were
is
brothers, yeah.
this is Sarosh's father, Adi's father.
Very good.
Are
Thank
they,
you.
are they
It
brothers?
says Sarosh's father. You're right. Yeah.
Were they brothers?
Yes, I believe
Sarosh
so. Let me see.
Because Adi
No,
and
they would have been cousins.
Adi and Sarosh were cousins.
They were cousins. The parents of Sarosh are Kaikushru, Ardashir, Irani. So that's exactly who that is by the sign.
Under the sign.
Who is the guy in the far back that's got the wild hair?
Oh, we don't know.
We don't know. We only know these two people.
I've seen that guy. I thought I saw him on the stage with Baba in the video My Call or something like that.
Might have been.
Here on the right in the foreground is a Western person who's darling. He must have been a big customer, huh?
I don't know, but this picture was taken in 1899.
Yeah.
Wow,
Sarosh wasn't born until 1903. This is
and
another
this
picture.
Ahmed Nagar, what does it say after that?
Well, it's hard to know.
Camp, something, Ahmed Nagar Camp,
Aha.
December, I think, 4 December 1893.
1899.
99. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like a 3, but maybe it is a 3. I think this is a question for Tony Zoyce.
Maybe that's
It
a
is
railway
3.
stop. Is that a railway stop?
We don't. Tony
Yeah.
might know.
Yeah, very interesting. All
Yeah, I'm
right.
trying to figure out what it says on the top. ANG something or other. ANS. Huh.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop the screen share and thank everyone for being here today. It was a wonderful gathering. Thank you so much. We just are so grateful to be able to share with Baba's love. Go ahead, Karen.
Say Baba. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ruthie.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Karen.
I'll go back and look at the beginning. Sorry, I didn't even know it was going on.
All right.
It was great. Thank you.
So we'll
Thank you,
be
Ruthie.
sharing. Yeah, sure. We'll be sharing next week as well. I'm trying to think who next week is.
Balji is
Okay.
January 15th. His birthday is January 13th, I think.
That's
All right.
correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So next week will be Balji, and then I think the week after that, or maybe even the same week, is my brain just dropped her. Mansari. Mansari. Yes, small
The
Mansari.
fiery Mansari.
Sorry, Mansari. Yeah. All right, let's have a moment of silence in gratitude to Baba for all the wonders that he brings us. Jai Baba. Jai Baba. If you'd like to unmute, we can all say our key J's. Avatar.
Avatar, Mer Baba Ki Jai. Avatar, Mer Baba Ki Jai. Avatar, Mer Baba Ki Jai.
Thank you so much for your hard work. That was wonderful.
Thank you, everybody.